Good afternoon, y'all. Welcome to Pacific Southwest Airlines Smiley 1287. Today we're going to be doing a short little flight down to Seattle. We're just now loading in. We are aboard the aircraft and we have just finished boarding, so we're going to get started. Let's go and get this plane fired up. Right now we're going to get the APU going, and then when that's ready to go, we'll start lining up the INS. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and check the lights. Alright, all the lights are looking good. We're going to go ahead and let that do its thing. In the meantime, we can also check out the weather.
San Diego INTL Information Yankee. 1800 Zulu weather. Wind 260 at 16, visibility more than 10. Sky conditions 2000 few, 4000 few, temperature 18, dew point 5. Altimeter 3004. Arriving runway 27, departing runway 27. Advise on initial contact you have Yankee.
So let's go check our APU, and she's almost ready to go. Gonna wait for that GT about 500. Perfect. Go ahead and close that. And now we're gonna switch to APU. We're just gonna check our quantities, make sure everything's good. Perfect. All that's looking great. Go ahead and leave everything else alone for now. It's pretty nice outside, so don't need to worry about any air conditioning for now. We're gonna come up front, and we're gonna start entering the waypoints. So let's get this thing ready to go. Come back over here to 10-9. And we're looking for 11 through 18, because we're at gate 13. It's looking like it's gonna be right here. So we're gonna go clear north 32440. Then we're gonna do west 11711.9. Insert, clear, and we're gonna go ahead and start alignment. We're gonna come down to desired. Sorry, not desired. We're gonna go to waypoints first. And then we're gonna start entering our waypoints. So we're gonna come over here, check our notes. Unfortunately, with the SEVA, we can't do anything too crazy. We only have about 9. So I got the ones I need right here. So we're gonna start with this one. We're gonna go clear. We're gonna go to waypoint 1. We're gonna go north 32516. Insert clear west 117156. Did that wrong? We go 117156. Here's waypoint 1. Do the same thing for all those. Now we're looking for Momoto. We're going to go clear north 33161. Okay, we're going to do 117417. Waypoint 3, which is going to be IK, and that's going to be clear north 34085. 34085. Say 34085. Yep. Insert clear west 119006. Go to waypoint 4, and that's going to be SNS. What's nice about the upcoming waypoints, SNS, LMT, BTG, these are all your stations, so we can have a reference to those once we get closer. So starting with SNS, we're going to go and insert that into waypoint 4. That's going to be clear north 36398. West 121361. 121361. Insert clear. Waypoint 5. It's going to be LMT. LMT. That's going to be clear north 42091. West 121436. 121436. Clear. Go to 1.6, which is going to be BTG. We're going to go clear north 45448. 45448. Insert clear west 122354. Then we're going to go over to, once we're clear BTG, we're going to go to our, these are going to be our ILS approach points. So JIPOX and clues, these are going to get us lined up for right, if I remember correctly. So JIPOX is going to be clear north 4703 feet. Then we're going to do 122186. 186. Yep, insert clear. Go to clues. Give me clear north 47135. Clear west 122185. Alright, 122185, so that. Now we're just going to go back and make sure they're all accurate and correct. So we got 47135, then we got 122185. Make sure clear that. We're going to go back to 7, which is going to be 47138, 47138, 122186. Then we got 45, 448. 45, 122, 354. Got me worried there. I read the wrong one for a second. 4409, sorry, 42091, 42091, and then we got 124,436. Then we're gonna get 36398. Then we're gonna have 12136.1. Then we have IT, which is going to be 34085 and 1190006. 112, which is going to be Moto 33161 117417. Perfect. So Alright, all the waypoints are ready. We're gonna come up here to desired tracks. We're just almost ready to go. So we're gonna call up our... Get these ready. Set that. Go and call up our grounder.
Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
TCAS test. Pass.
Okay, trim is set. And with our EPO, we're going to hit for 210. And then to take off, we'll adjust from there. Alright, while he's driving up, we're going to get this back here ready to go. So we're going to come up here and just start turning on one of these fuel.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
Passengers are ready, galley powers are off, packs are off, lead air AD is ready, fired, one is empty tested, and we are ready to go. Now, we're going to check this just to make sure. Perfect. Alright. We're just going to wait now. And now we just wait. While we wait, we can go and set some of our VOR stations. So 117.3
Tow connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake. Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
So with that, we can come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the captain and crew, welcome aboard. Please make sure that your seat backs and trays are in their full upright position. Also, ensure that your seatbelt is correctly fastened. As well, any electronic equipment must be turned off. Thanks, and have a great flight.
Okay, switch is clear. And once we get a complete start, we'll see the light extinguish. There we go. Got view engine number 2. Same thing. Engine's rising. Looking for 70% right there. Get one's rising. EGT is rising. Switch is closed. Once the switch is closed, we're going to look for this light to extinguish and be fully started. Lights closed, come up. Let's close that. Go and start engine 1. Into rising. Looking for 70%. Right there. And fuel. And one's rising. EGT is rising. Switch is closed. Waiting for the light. Engine start. All engines are started. Now we come back to the flight engineer. We go and close all the circuit breakers.
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
Parking brake.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Get the rest of the fuel pumps fired up. And now we're going to close the generators. It says it's power to both generators. APU offline. Pressurization is set. All hydraulic systems are online. We're going to be doing a cruising altitude of 25,000 feet today. Let's get the pressurization system going. Both packs come online. Cars
Hose disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the right. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
Alright, perfect. Alright, now we're gonna come back forward. He's gonna be on the right. In the meantime, let's just make sure everything's ready. Trim is set, throttles are good, INS is good. We're gonna go ahead and set that to GPS. All of our bugs are set, and we're gonna be looking for an EPR of 210 on the climb out. There's the pin. We got that. Let's turn our taxi lights on. And a couple navigation lights, and that should be it. We're gonna come over here. We're just gonna get our charts just to make sure we're going in the right direction. So we're gonna be taking Bravo all the way down to, don't know what that is exactly, it doesn't specify, but we're gonna be looking just for the end of the threshold. So let's get taxi. Release the brakes. And let's get rolling. So the final one I see on here is gonna be Bravo 4, so we're gonna be looking for the one just after Bravo 4. Go and set our cruising altitude
If I can
today.
have everyone's full attention while we review safety information.
Gonna set 25,000 feet.
Sign illuminates
Because we're gonna take off and climb straight out.
Metal fittings, one into the other, and tighten by pulling on the loose end of the strap. You can release your seatbelt by lifting the upper portion of the buckle.
Bravo
It's
4.
recommended that you keep your seatbelt fastened during the flight.
Passing Bravo 7 right now.
There's several emergency exits on this aircraft. Please take a moment now to locate the nearest exit to you. In some cases, your nearest exit may be behind you. If we need to evacuate the aircraft, floor level lighting will guide you towards the exit. Doors can be opened by moving the
There's
handle
Bravo
in the
6, a
direction
little
of the
bit more to go.
arrow.
Just barely see us
Doors
on the
are
map.
equipped with an inflatable slide which may also be detached and used as a life raft. Oxygen and air pressure are consistently monitored. In the event of a decompression, an oxygen mask will fall in front of you from the ceiling.
For those of you just now joining, this is going to be a pretty simple flight. We're taking off from KSAN, which is San Francisco, and we're going to be going down to Seattle. Looking about just over, close to 3 hours.
Not in waves, oxygen is flowing to the mask. If you're traveling with a child or someone who needs assistance, secure your own mask first, then assist the other person. Keep your mask on until a crew member advises you to remove it. In the event of an emergency, please
There's
assume
Bravo
the brace
4.
position.
We're over for the one
Forward
just
with your
after
hands
that.
on top of your head
So the next
and your
left.
elbows against your thighs. Ensure your feet are flat on the floor. A life vest is located in a pouch under your seat or between the armrests. When instructed to do so, open the plastic pouch and remove the vest. Slip it over your head, pass the straps around your waist, and adjust at the front. Only when leaving the aircraft, inflate the vest by pulling firmly on the red cord. If you need to refill the vest, blow into the mouthpiece. Use the whistle and light to attract attention. Also,
Alright, now
use the
approaching our
dock
turn
station
point.
to use as a flotation device.
We're going to start
Pull the
getting
cushion from the seat,
ready
slip
for
your arms
takeoff.
through the strap, and tuck the cushion
Once
to
again,
your chest.
trim is set.
Electronic devices such as
EPR is
USB
known, which
players,
means we're going to be
phones,
doing,
laptop computers,
with the outside temperature, we're going to be doing
cell
about
phone is off,
210
or when permitted by the
for
crew.
EPR.
Mobile phones must be turned off at all
Go and
times.
start turning.
This is a non-smoking flight. Remember that damaging the
And landing
smoke
lights come
detectors
on.
located in the lavatories is prohibited by law. You will find this and all other safety information in the card located in the seat pocket in front of you. We strongly suggest you read it before takeoff. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask myself
Going to go and set
or
flaps
one of
for
our crew
20
members.
degrees.
We wish you all an enjoyable flight.
Go and start setting the brakes. Perfect. Alright. Make sure our outer brakes are set to RTO for rejected takeoff. Everything else is looking pretty good. Verify flaps are at 20 degrees, and they are. Let's get trim set one more time. And now let's start adding power. Our first waypoint is going to be 8 miles out. And release the brakes. Advancing to 210. Right. There we go, 210. Alright, airspeed's alive.
80 knots.
80 knots, check.
E1. Rotate.
Start pulling back. There we go. Perfect. Gonna start climbing. Start raising flaps. Pull the power back. Because I can tell you safely, those engines do not like that much power for an extended period of time. Go and set the autopilot. And the autopilot will start making the turns for our course. Landing gear handle neutral. Taxi lights come on. Autopilot's going to be making a turn in to intercept our first waypoint, which is going to be part of our SID out of runway 27. Doing about 1,500 feet per minute climb today. Pretty shallow. Once we start getting a little faster on course, we'll increase that. Alright, perfect. Alright, bringing our flaps up to the final positions. Looking steady about 1,500 feet per minute. Perfect, flaps up. And now we're on position. Plane's going to turn to maintain the correct heading. We'll just be climbing from here. Just going to do a once over to make sure everything's okay. And everything's looking mighty fine for now. In the meantime, while we're maintaining this climb, we're going to go and take a look outside and enjoy the San Francisco area as we pass over the bay. Sorry, not San Francisco. San Diego. I keep forgetting I'm in the wrong area. So, Pacific Southwest Airlines, Flight 1274 out of San Diego. Making the climb for 25,000 feet right now. Quite a beautiful area. It's one of my first times actually around here. We're going to listen to ATIS one last time, just make sure we get a correct altimeter on our climb up.
San Diego INTL information Yankee.
Yep, nothing has changed, so we're going to stay this course. Right now we're about 30 miles out from our next waypoint. You can see 29 right there, 28 right here. Looking about 6.4 minutes to go, just under 6.5. Engines are looking great, altimeter's great. Nothing of anything to note right now. There we go. While we're climbing, we can actually take a look at what's the best climb for us. So we're going to come over here, go to climb. It's just about, I'd say about 10 degrees Celsius. So we're going to come over here. So 10 degrees Celsius. looking about 1.97 for the best climb. Once we get out of 10,000 feet, we're going to go and begin doing that. We'll angle up to about 2,000 feet per minute and hit 1.97 in the EPR. Because 10 degrees Celsius is 1.97 across the board. Okay, approaching 2,000 feet, so I'm going to go ahead and start accelerating towards 1.97. Alright, EPR set at 1.9, just a little bit under, there we go, 1.97. There we go, 10,000 feet, go and turn off our landing lights.
Gentlemen, you may now use electronic lighting. Once we reach our cruising altitude, flight attendants will be making their way to the cabin to relieve the restraints. Now sit back, relax, and have a great flight.
Alright, a little update on our current goings right now. We're still about 14 miles out from our next waypoint, which will be waypoint 1. We are roughly just under 3 minutes away. From waypoint 1, we're going to be making a turn to continue on to waypoint 2, which will be Momoto. There we go, we got some speed, now we're going to raise our climb. Looking for about 2,000 feet per minute. Perfect.
Chino Information Yankee. 1800.
Don't need to be hearing anything about that. Not really worried about that place right now. But in the meantime, while we're doing our climb, we'll come over here to our airports and we'll get the information for Seattle dialed up. So we're looking for 134.0, or correction, 134.8. Come on. Actually, we can go ahead and leave it because it's already set over there.
San Diego INTL information.
For some reason, San Diego also has the same number as Seattle. There we go. 6 miles out, 1 minute to go. And while we're climbing, I'm just going to make sure we got our VOR station set. So we're just going to come over here and double check 117.3. And you see the aircraft making a turn for our next waypoint. I'm going to go ahead and dial the power back just a bit. So yeah, VOR station is set for 117.3. So once we get within range, that will actually be our 4th waypoint, so we still got 2 to go. but once we're in range, you'll see it actually appear on our DME2 down here. That's just my way of having backup confirmation that we're going in the right direction. So right now we are
18,000 feet.
Nope, 18,000 feet. We're gonna go and set standard altimeter pressure. There we go. Wish the co-pilot would do it himself, but he seems to be lazy. Alright, there we go. So, we are roughly 78 miles with 13 minutes to go to waypoint 2, which once again is Mamoto. Our flight today is roughly 993 nautical miles, about 1,000 feet, or not 1,000 feet, sorry, 1,000 miles. It's a rather short flight, nothing too crazy, just about 3 hours. Alright, as we approach our cruising altitude, I'm going to go ahead and pull the power back a little bit more, just so it's a little bit smoother transition. Coming back again, just make sure everything looks good. Pressurization and temperature's looking great. Oil temperature and oil pressure are outstanding, and fuel quantity is perfect. Once we get closer to 25,000, there'll actually be a little bit of an alert, and it'll light up its light here. That's just nothing to worry about. This just means we're approaching our cruising altitude, and it's just a auditory warning to the crew that, hey, we're getting ready to be where we need to be. There we go. That's that warning I was telling you all about. That means we're getting ready to level off. So we're going to go ahead and just keep power right about where it is, and we'll see how the aircraft looks then. You'll notice the aircraft will start pitching down. And since we're leveling off, I'm going to go and turn off the seatbelt signs, because the weather's pretty nice up here.
Gentlemen, at this time, the flight attendants are coming around the student drink. You may also unfasten your seatbelt and move around the cabin at this point. Please enjoy the rest of the flight.
There we go. Welcome to cruising altitude. We're still about 60 miles out from our next waypoint, and about 11 minutes to go. Let's go and actually double check where we are. We're going to take a look at maps, and we're trying to see where we still are. So yep, we're still well within California. So in the meantime, we're going to take a look outside and just look at beautiful Los Angeles as we pass over the coast of California. Because Los Angeles is looking to be just about to our 1 or 2 o'clock, so let's take a look. There we go, 300 knots. Gonna start pulling the power back just a little bit. I want to maintain about 300 knots. While we're at cruising altitude, we're going to do just one more glance over the engines just to make sure everything's running good and that nothing's abnormal. So, EPR looks good. Both engines, or correction, all the engines are normal ranges. RPM looks good for N1 and N2. Temperatures are great. Fuel flow's great. And oil pressure looks great. And there's no warning lights. Everything is right where it needs to be. Okay, continue to pull the power back because we don't want to get too fast. Small little update, we're just now 40 miles out and about 6 minutes to go. And that's to waypoint 2, which is going to be, let's see, which was it? Which will be Moto. And one thing you can take a note of is you'll constantly hear a little whirring sound. And what that is, it's the autopilot trimming constantly to maintain the correct altitude. It's not perfect, it's an older system, so it has to constantly do a little bit of back and forth. So yeah, that sound you'll hear in the background is pretty normal. And for anyone curious, you can actually follow our flight on Sim Toolkit Pro. Is it? I don't know if it's Pro, but yeah, it is Sim Toolkit Pro, yeah. But you can follow it on there. We're currently just now passing over, actually, hang on. Yeah, we're just now passing over one of these SID points. We're approaching Ike? Yeah, we're approaching Ike. Ike is right near Oxnard, California, and from there we're going to be heading up towards our first VOR station, which will be SNS, right near Salinas, California. Alright, we're at 350, gonna go and pull the power back a little bit more. Luckily the air is pretty nice up here, so it's going to be a pretty smooth flight. Unfortunately, we're going to be flying through some weather up near LMT, but most of it should be clear. It'll be mostly clear up to our next waypoint, which would be BTG, where the weather starts getting pretty bad. Looking like Seattle has some pretty strong storms and a little bit of snow around that area, especially near Portland too. So that's going to be something to look forward to once we get in that area. A little interesting fact about this aircraft, it doesn't have auto land, so we're going to either have to hand fly it into there or we're going to have to divert to Portland. So we're actually going to get our weather radar set up for that when we approach that area. So we're going to come over here, if I can get a good view of it. Let's see. Can I reach it from here? There we go. Alright, our weather radar is on. We're going to go and set it for 40 miles. And we'll just monitor that and see if the weather changes. We still got a while to go, but I just want to get a little bit prepared for just in case. Luckily, this route takes us along the California coast for most of the way, all the way up to about, right about San Francisco. We're going to make a turn inland, and then stay inland all the way up till we approach Seattle. Okay, we're making a turn for our next waypoint, which is going to be just under 200 miles away. We got roughly 30 minutes to go till that. So in the meantime, while we're up here cruising, speed's looking great, engines are great, we got a while to go. Feel free to ask any questions, comments, concerns. Definitely couldn't ask for better weather for flying. This is incredibly smooth air. There we go, the map wasn't loading for a moment. Right now we're approaching Santa Barbara, heading up towards San Francisco. A little bit ways to go, but not too far. Still about 180 miles out from our next waypoint. We have 25 minutes to go. And from what I can tell, based on what waypoint we are, we have roughly about an hour and 50 minutes to go till we reach Seattle. Once again, the weather's pretty rough in Seattle, but depending on if it breaks or not, we may end up having to either divert, or we could just try and just force our way through. Once we get a little bit closer, I'll check the weather reports, listen to ATIS, and see what it's like. There we go. So, like I was saying earlier, I had our VOR station set up, and right now we just crossed 160 miles. You can see the VOR station is correlating 160 miles. So with that, I'm actually going to go double check our notes to see what our next station is going to be, so I can get that one dialed up. Let's come over here. SNS is where we're going, 160 miles. Next one will be LMT. So LMT is going to be 115.9. So we're going to dial it up. Now that this is set, howdy, welcome. Alright, 115.9 is set, and that's going to be set for both. So once we cross the threshold for this, we'll flip over to that, and we'll continue on our way. So right now we're heading towards waypoint SNS, which is also our VOR station. From there, we're going to go to LMT. For anyone that's interested, you can actually follow this flight on Sim Toolkit Pro. You can see we're just now approaching, or just now passing Santa Barbara, going towards Salinas and San Jose. San Jose is, SNS is just south of Salinas. Right now we're about 145 miles from SNS with just around 21 minutes to go. Engines are great, everything's normal, and nothing to worry about. One fun thing to note about this kind of aircraft with our SEVA here is we can't really necessarily do SIDS, stars, and all that fancy stuff. Mostly because we don't have the data storage capable of doing that. We can have a maximum of 9 waypoints, and you'll see some SIDS and stars have, you know, 5, 6 points in them alone. So what we end up having to do is go through and just cherry pick ones to kind of just piece together a route. So this flight, I had Echo, then I went to Mamoto to Aiki, and then I skipped all the rest of the points all the way up to our first VOR station. And then you got to do a lot of this just so you can make room for even having your approach points, because 2 of my approach points are for, I mean, I already have 2 approach points. That already gives me only 7 options for flying the plane. In the meantime, we're actually going to come back here. We're going to double check that everything's set up correctly. So we're going to go back to airports, and you'll see Seattle come over here. Airport information. Oop, that's not Seattle. There's Seattle. Alright. Airport. What I've filed for is 3-4 right, but like I was saying earlier, the weather's pretty awful, so depending on how things go, we'll just work with what they give us. But landing elevation is going to be 347. So we're going to come back and we're just going to double check 350 set on that, and everything else is looking great. All that's normal. We're going to go and turn galley power on just so they can get some coffee back there. In the meantime, while we're cruising, I'm going to call up my flight attendant. So give me a moment. Where would that be? There we go. Alright, there we go. Flight attendants on their way. Small little update. We're about 115 miles out with 16 minutes to go. We're making great on time today. Speed's roughly just under 350, altitude's 25,000 feet, and we have about an hour and 50 minutes to go. Right now we're going to be passing over, let's see, Bakersfield is going to be off to our right, with Santa Maria is going to be off to our left as well. So we're going to take this time to take a look outside and enjoy beautiful California before we get too far past it. So Bakersfield is going to be off to our right over there. Not sure if we can see it. It's pretty far up there. Somewhere over there, I believe. But if we look to the right, or actually to the left, you'll see Santa Maria over here. Back inside. And some of the things we can do while we're waiting is we're actually going to go back over here and verify our approach plates. So we're going to just go back to Seattle. Went a little too far. We're going to go for approach. ILS 34 right. Let's find that. ILS localizer 34 right. We're going to get the altitude we need. So, like I was saying with our SEVA, we have 2 points. We have JIPOC set and we have Clues set. Clues is my final one just so I have enough room to, take over hand flying. We need to be altitude of 2,200 feet at Buck to intercept the point. So let's see, what is our go around altitude? Alright, nothing to note there. Speed's still looking great. We're just now about 85 miles out with 13 minutes to go. I'm going to see if we can go and pick up our next point. Our next point is going to be, let's see, it'd be L&T. So we're going to double check that. Alright, we're not picking L&T up yet. So we're just going to continue riding SNS till we get closer. Yeah, that's definitely quite the accurate statement. There's a lot of things. The most complicated parts are definitely landing and takeoffs because, you know, you're trying to fly the aircraft, maintain the flaps, landing gear, speed, engines, and then you got to make sure, there's just so much stuff. I really wish they had multi-crew for this kind of stuff. FlightJSim was apparently working on it, but I haven't heard much on that in quite a while. But that'd be so amazing having, you know, a second guy over here helping me. Luckily, the flight engineer station on this is pretty straightforward. A lot of the stuff's automated. It's mostly just saying, looking at it and making sure, you know, nothing's going drastically wrong. For example, if you look over here, pressurization system, you got, where would it be? Right here. This is your just, you know, hey, dial in the altitude where you want to be, where you're going to be, and what you want the pressurization set, turn it automatic, handles it itself. So luckily that's pretty straightforward. And the rest is just monitoring, you know, are the fuel pumps working? Is anything going wrong? Nothing's going wrong. Okay. This guy also is responsible for the fuel dump, which is back here. Luckily, I've never had to use it, but it is back there in case of emergency. turn down some of our lights. It's pretty bright. There we go. Perfect. Small little update, we're about 60 miles out from SNS with about just under 9 minutes to go. The speed's holding steady, looking great. Not an instrument in the cockpit is moving. Everything's going great. Meantime, we're actually going to start. Actually, no, we'll save that for later. We're still a little ways out. What we can do is actually just. Typically, I only do this when we start approaching like the ILS localizer and stuff, just to verify I'm on the right channel. But for a little bit of fun, a little bit of trivia, we'll actually listen to the frequency of this of SNS to make sure we're on the correct station. So. Let's see, we're going to go and verify we're on SNS, which is going to be 117.3, and their frequency, we're going to turn on nav 1. See if we can hear it. Yep, that's SNS. And how you can tell is because what you hear is the Morse code is it's identifying the station. So the 3 dots S, and then you got dash dot N, then 3 dots S. If we hear it again. So yeah, the 3 rapid dots are S, then you got the long dash dot N, then the 3 dots are S. So we're listening to SNS. We're gonna go ahead and double check if we can pick up LMT here. And how I can verify I'm picking up LMT is I'm using the second DME, which is DME2, because my ADI is showing the position of the GPS, where the GPS is going. So I can use this gauge down here to figure out the distance to whatever station I want. So if we check LMT, still not picking it up yet. I'm not sure exactly how far out we are from it, so we'll have to verify once we clear that waypoint. Right now we're roughly about 34 miles out from SNS. We have about 5 minutes to go. We're going to be bypassing RBL and going straight for LMT, because once again it's the unfortunate limitation of this system. So SNS is just south of Salinas, but we're going to be making a turn going straight for LMT, which is all the way up near see what city is that? All the way near Klamath Falls, Oregon. So we're going to be leapfrogging quite a bit. Definitely enjoy the view while you can, because it'll be about the last time we'll see the coastline for a while, at least till we get up towards Seattle. And then again, the weather's probably going to be so bad we won't see much. This is honestly the first time I've ever really been out here. I've mostly done Midwest and a little bit of East Coast things. I've only just now come out here with my virtual airline. I've always loved the Pacific Southwest livery, or Pacific Southwest Airlines livery, but I've never actually been over here. I did a couple of their flights from like Phoenix to Albuquerque, but this is the first time I've ever been in California. It's pretty crazy seeing this stuff. I'm actually wondering if I can manage to add my ACARS to this. ACARS being a program my virtual airline uses, and it would allow you guys to hear what my flight attendants are doing and what's going on in the cabin. It's a pretty interesting program, and they actually add a lot of in-depth and immersion. Not really sure how to go about adding that audio source though. It doesn't seem to be listed in my apps. I'll have to look into that later. We're going to take one last look around this area of California, and take a couple pictures before we make any, or we're going to take a couple pictures before we make our turns towards Oregon. Right now, we're just now approaching Salinas. You can just barely up there by our window make out where San Francisco is. Just barely see the bay. Unfortunately, I think we're going to bypass that pretty heavily because we're going to be just totally shortcutting around. Absolutely beautiful area. There we go, making our turn for RBT, heading towards Oregon. Oh, absolutely. I really wish there was more of these in game. That's one of the things when the MD-11 passenger version comes out, I want the PSA lifters so bad. I know they never flew, but I want it so bad. I cannot get enough of these. I would be flying the L-1011 if I could, but I can't even manage to find one. bypass San Francisco. Seems like the airplane wants to crawl their road into which is nice. Yeah, it's hard to find any good quality old things to begin with. And if you do, they're probably not for this game. Like the DC-6, that thing's amazing, but it's not going to be in this game anytime soon. They might do it for X-Plane 12, which would be pretty awesome. I don't know about mine, but I hope they would. Alright, and now we're about 316 miles from RBT, about 45 minutes to go. And as you can see, we're going away from SNS. So I'm going to go ahead and dial up RBT on here. See if we can pick it up sooner or later. Just going to come back and visualize, make sure everything's good and nothing's falling apart. These old airliners are something you gotta wonder about sometimes. And right now we're just passing an hour and a half to go till we reach Seattle. Unfortunately, the weather's still not in our favor. It's still pretty much holding steady. It hasn't really changed much since we took off. It's still looking pretty rough. Hopefully with the way we have a flight planned, because we're going to be going to just a little bit north of Portland and making our turn towards our waypoints to intercept the ILS. We should, depending on how it lines up, we should be able to bypass it, I hope. And unfortunately, no, I don't really fly on VATSIM or IBACO or anything like that. I want to, I would really like to get into that, but I'm mostly worried that I'll be more of a hindrance and start slowing people down because I'm not as capable as the modern jets. I gotta be, you know, treated different. And I don't want to be the guy that's just holding up a busy airspace. Because, you know, I could be flying into, say, like, Portland. I'm talking ATC, you know, fly direct to waypoint. Well, to fly direct to waypoint, I need, like, you know, three things. I need either coordinates, a VOR, or a bearing. Yeah, that'd definitely be fun to show up and just, hey, handle me, please. Because I bet they get so complacent with just, you know, the modern jets. You know, they got the FMC. Oh, direct this waypoint, push the button. Okay, see you guys later. I've actually looked at the DC-9 in this game. I don't know if we're talking about the same game, but the DC-9 around here is really nice. I mean, it's kind of old and not as high fidelity as some, but given what it is, I really like it. the aircraft I've really wanted that no game I've, X-Plane, FSX, and I haven't looked at Microsoft, but no one seems to be doing anything Convair. I want like the 880 and the 990. Unfortunately, the guy who made the DC-9 for X-Plane has either totally fallen off the map, passed away, or something. Nobody really sure what happened to him. His name was Michael Wilson. He's made a bunch of really good aircraft, like the 707, DC-9, and a couple others I can't think of off the top of my head. He also made the L-1011, but, since no one's maintaining the aircraft anymore, they removed them from downloads, so you gotta, get the aircraft from a guy that knows a guy kind of thing. So I've only been able to find the DC-9. And, that's actually a good question. I don't really think that it's, the documentation that would be hard to find. It's just if someone has enough passion. I mean, you'd be surprised how much wild stuff people can find. Someone managed to find a booklet for this INS. I'll show you this. We come over here, we'll go to my aircraft, come out of this, we'll go to procedures. I literally have a quick reference book on this. Someone managed to find this for the INS. It is so cool. It just goes through, what's going on, how to troubleshoot it, how to take care of it. It's just, people that have passion can find anything, and it's just so cool. And if you look to our left here, you'll see we are passing near San Diego. You can see the bay, you can see the Pacific Ocean. Actually, come outside and take a couple pictures of a little bit of the beach. Yeah, that's honestly what drives a lot of people. There's been some amazing mods that are just put so much work into just out of passion. It is amazing what people can create when they care enough about it. Right now we're about 255 miles out with 36 minutes to go. No word on the VOR station right now. Engines are looking great. Once again, no warning lights, nothing's going wrong. Smooth air for the most part, and we're holding steady in the speed. We should be there about, let's see, an hour and 20 minutes to go. Hopefully that weather will clear. We got to divert. interesting thing to note about this aircraft is these engines are very sensitive in how you want to handle them. If you apply too much power for too long, ooh, one moment, I'm having a phone call right now. Like I was saying, when it comes to these engines, they're actually pretty sensitive on how you want to handle them. If you have too much power for too long, say anything over, I believe it's 91% in one, you hold it there for too long, it'll actually catch the engines on fire, they'll overheat, they'll get damaged. That's why with takeoff power, we can only apply it for we can only apply it for less than 5 minutes, or we start risking serious issues. So that's why maintaining engines below a certain point is so important on this aircraft. And since we got about 200 miles to go, I'm going to take the opportunity to step away for a second, stretch my legs, go back, use the lavatory, and I'll be back in just a moment. And we've returned. Sorry about how long that took. Some of the stewardesses had some questions. There were some issues with the galley back there. Right now we're 190 miles out from, let's see, what waypoint was that going to be again? Let's see. LMT. We got about 30 minutes to go, but we're going to go ahead and take the time just to verify we're listening to the correct station. So we're looking for LMT. So we'll just turn that on and switch to nav one on. Yep, that's LMT. Alright, looking great. Right now we are still currently about 1 hour and 10 minutes out. In the meantime, we can do some interesting trivia. If we come back here, look down at the fuel gauges, you'll notice how this gauge and these gauges are the same, but this one, the center one's different. That's because the wing tanks are significantly smaller than the centerline fuel tank. The centerline fuel tank can hold up to 30,000 pounds of fuel, while the wing tanks can hold about a little over 10,000 pounds. So you could have the same amount of fuel in 3 tanks, but it would show drastically different stuff on this gauge compared to these. Will do. I'll see you around. Have a good day. Small little update, we're still about 170 miles out with 23 minutes to go, and doing about 350 knots. We're looking great right now. Everything's in the green where it needs to be, and there's nothing going drastically wrong. Unfortunately, the weather's still pretty poor in Seattle, so we'll have to see how that is once we get closer.
Force 210 to send you the color 2. We have
Sky left, 5684, approach expected to turn 335 left.
well, let's get 35 left.
FedEx 701 Heavy, just want to maintain 3,000.
FedEx 701 out of 533.
Listening 5049 with the other section, 1110, 10,000.
Swiss 349 will approach expect 17 left.
17 left.
Fortunately, the weather's already starting to turn sour. As we approach Oregon, we got some light showers ahead, nothing too crazy. A little bit light with some snow mixed in. A lot of it's going to be centered around our next waypoint, the one we're currently heading to, which is waypoint 5, which is going to be Lima Mike Tango LMT, the BOR station. So that's going to be something to note once we get closer.
8 miles from Spires, cross Spires that are above 4,000, third islet, calling 7 left right.
weather radar is on, and we're looking basically straight ahead at 40 miles out. We're going to keep an eye on that, see if anything changes.
24-2.
Street 5049, just going to maintain 6,000.
Down to 6,000, District 5049.
Sky was 5559, 5 miles to check. Pressure in at 5, South 10 Center approach, maintain 200 knots.
Pressure in at 5, clear 10 Center, and 210 on the speed now, Sky was 5559.
Sky 374 at Ray, contact tower 120.75. Array tower 075, unit 374. Today.
Just now passing over some clouds. We are roughly just over Chico, California. Just past Yuba a little bit ago. If we look out our right side, you'll be able to see Nevada. We're currently heading just to the east of Redding, heading towards, what would that be? Klamath Falls, Oregon. While we approach, we're going to go ahead and get our next waypoint ready. So we're going to L&T. Next one will be BTG. So BTG's frequency is going to be 116.6. So we'll go and get that ready.
5559, reduce speed to 180 knots to Ray, contact tower Ray 12075.
180 to Ray, over tower there, Sky was 5559.
Alright, there we go. BTG is set. And now we just need to wait it out till we get a little bit closer, and then we should be good. Thing to note, BTG is our last VOR station. From BTG, we'll be going direct for our ILS approach into runway 34 right, or correction, I believe it is 34 right, maybe 36 right, I'm going to double check. Not flown into Seattle much. Still check. Yep, 34 right. That's what we currently have planned, but depending on the weather, it may change. But after BTG, we had Jaipak set.
Q4721 Adelaide, they're doing a runway inspection right now, so we'll have to go out just a little bit. Roger, 4721.
Approach United 1496, 11-1, 2000, information November 300 knots.
United 1496, approach, expect runway 9 left.
9 left, United 1496.
Wisconsin 3819, descend and maintain 7000.
7,000, Wisconsin 39.
While we're up here at cruise, we take some time to do some interesting things. Let's actually see if we can find our ground speed.
3819, connect approach on 133.62.
3362, have a good day, weekend.
Ground speed is, let's see. Looks like we're tracking 358 degrees at a ground speed of about 439. Which that pretty much correlates with what information I've been receiving so far. We're going to head back up to our distance of time. 115 miles to go with about 15 minutes to reach that point. We are currently about just under an hour away from Seattle. We are just now approaching into, I believe, if I can, actually no, we still got a while to go. We're just now getting pretty close to the California border.
Approach Commander, scan 3819, passing 9277. We have no coverage. Scan 3819, approach, be runway 10 center, reduce speed to 180. Hold 180 knots, 12 center, scan 3919.
Maintain 10,000, maintain grid or not.
Unfortunately, we can't really see it, but down to about our 11 o'clock right now, we'll be passing to the east of Redding, California. Luckily, in this aircraft, cruising is pretty uneventful. We just set the power, leave it where it is, and the aircraft's usually pretty happy. Right now, we're just now 95 miles away from LMT, and we're about 12 minutes out. Still doing about 350 knots, indicated in about 450 on the ground. 450, 440 on the ground. Not much to note except that the weather is still pretty terrible and getting worse in Chicago, not Chicago, but in Seattle. So that's one thing we're gonna have to note. Even our divert airport's looking in pretty big trouble. So as we continue to get closer, and we get towards LMT, I'm gonna have to start double checking the weather and making our decision from there. We may end up having to divert towards Portland. small little update. We're still about 70 miles out from LMT, looking about 10 minutes to go. Nothing to note right now. Everything's going great. The instruments are looking perfect, and everybody's happy in the back. So we're just going to continue cruising here, and I'll update you guys once we get a little bit closer to LMT, and we can start figuring out what we're going to do with the weather. Just realized I was talking with my microphone muted. Right now we are roughly 47 miles out with 6 minutes to go, and we're just to the northeast of Reading. We are closely and quickly approaching the California-Oregon border, and we'll decide what to do once we get closer to LMT. according to my maps right now, we're actually just now approaching LMT, but we're actually passing over some weather. So I'm gonna see if we can get my weather radar to pick that up and we can figure out where it is. It's easier said than done, unfortunately. Let's see. There we go. Oh, there we go. Yeah, we're picking it up now. Yeah, you can see some of the weather down below us. It's pretty far, actually almost like directly below us. We're going to keep it down just a little bit. Yeah, as I'm not liking what I see in Seattle right now, we are probably going to have to end up diverting. Even though the weather in Portland's pretty awful too. We're going to take a look at our options here and see what we can do. I don't even know what Portland is called, so give me a moment. Okay, KPDX, let's see. Let's see what we can do here. 128.35. Alright, runway 3 is about 6,000 feet. But runway 28 is 11,000 feet, which is definitely a lot nicer for us. Definitely can't have too much room. I know we can land at 6,000 feet though. Let's take a look at the weather and see what we can do. Actually, correction, we're going to go back and see what the approach plates are like. So what were we thinking? If we take a look at runway 3, let's see. Can we do runway 3? Looking like we can't do runway 3. But we can do 28, which I definitely won't complain by having more room. So yeah, runway 28, which is 23 feet. Let's go ahead and set that. Feet. Alright, yeah, unfortunately we're gonna need to divert because I'm not liking the weather. So actually, let's just double check. Yeah, we're gonna divert to Portland. About 1 mile to go on waypoint 5. So now we're gonna make waypoint 6 our, let's see, we're doing, which one would that be? 2 left. So we're gonna do runway 2 left. So now we need to get the information for Hipster and Hannah. 1110.5. Alright, let's take a look again. So let's get the information for Hipster and Hannah. go. Okay, we got the information, now we're going to go and update our stuff. So at L&T, which we just bypassed, we're going to go to waypoint 6. Because let's double check, waypoint 6 is supposed to be... Alright, yep. So now we're going to set hipster. Correction. 45283. 45283. Insert. Clear. West. 122183. 1221. Come on, 183. Insert. There we go. 179 miles to go. We're going to pull the power back a little bit because we're approaching 350. We're going to make the turns to get on course. And in the meantime, we're going to go and set waypoint 7. Clear north 45304. 122237. We got 237. Insert. Clear. So 122237, and then 45304. 45304. Waypoint 6 is going to be 45283 and 12218.3. Perfect. The plane is going to do what it needs to get on course. And we're going to go ahead and just visually monitor our distance. We're going to start a little bit of a descent down to 10,000 feet. Just verify we have landing altitude set, which is going to be 20 feet, just according to go and clear the Seattle stuff. Alright, we need to be at 3,700 feet at hipster. Let's go ahead and visually identify where we are. There we go, the plane's approaching the course at once. And we need to know what direction we need to head. 283, alright. So we got 1110.5 set. Alright. 1110.5. Then we just gotta remember heading 283. At about 100 miles, we'll start a descent. And we'll say about 120. Alright, for any of you guys that are just now joining us, we're unfortunately going to have to divert to Portland due to poor weather in Seattle. It's nothing crazy, it's just something I don't am not looking to want to get into. Especially since the capabilities of the aircraft, I'd rather land with just clear weather, smoother skies, and make it for a smoother, easier approach, and we can rebook your flights later. And for anyone curious, what today's plan is, we're actually going to be flying direct to Hipster, and then we'll be turning to make our way towards Hannah. From Hannah, we're going to hand fly it down to Adam, and we'll just hand fly the approach into Portland, depending on the weather. Alright, about 100 miles out, we're going to go and turn our signs on, begin our descent. Pull the power back, and let's just start walking the aircraft down. Nothing too crazy, just nice and gentle. About 500 feet per minute. And unfortunately, with this updated information, we're going to be about 30 minutes out to Portland. Actually, hang on. That's not to Portland. That's to something else. One moment. There we go. Now, it still says that we're about 30 minutes out for some reason, so we'll work with that for now. We're going to expedite our descent down to 1,000 feet per minute, just because I want to give us enough room to get comfortable. So we'll just ease the power back some more, and we'll just accelerate that descent. Nothing too crazy, of course. Still want to maintain just about above 300. We'll adjust from there. Alright, speed's looking great, and we're descending pretty nicely. We're at 23,000 feet right now, going for 10,000 feet to reach our altitude of 2,000 that we'll need for Adam. We're about 14 minutes out now, so actually, yeah, we're going to continue to expedite this descent, pull the power back a little bit more, and we'll go about 1,500, see what we get from there. Going to be deploying the speed brakes just a bit, just to help with the descent. Don't want to be accelerating too quick. And especially with these older engines, I want to maintain the highest RPM I can, so I'll be using the spoilers as much as I can. We're going to go ahead and set our auto brakes to medium, and we'll get our bugs set. We're going to do landing, 30 degrees flaps, set the bugs. There we go, passing 19,000 feet. Go ahead and start pulling the power back a little bit more as we get closer to our 10,000 feet. We're going to go ahead and make that 5,000 feet.
18,000 feet.
Still no word from Portland yet. We're just going to make sure we're on the correct frequency. Go ahead and close this for now. Let's see. Portland ATIS 128.35. So we got set 128.35. continue to pull the power back some more and bring the brakes out a little bit more, just to help get us under 300. Alright, we're actually descending pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and slow us down. Come back up to 1,000 feet per minute. Because we're still 50 miles out. Alright, speed's looking great. I'm going to pull the speed brakes back in. We'll just ride what we got for now. Oop, wrong way. Gonna bring it up about 500 feet per minute. We're going to keep our weather radar level with us, so just so we can keep an eye on the storms. We're actually going to keep it about 40 miles, just for more visual. Still 45 miles out. We got about 7 minutes to go till we reach our waypoint, and we need to pull the power back a lot more as we're approaching 10,000 feet. Need to get under 250, so let's go ahead and get our landing lights on. We're going to go and turn on the logo lights as well.
Portland INTL Information Alpha. 2100 Zulu weather. Wind light and variable, visibility more than 10, rain. Sky conditions 2300 scattered, 4300 broken, 6300 broken, temperature 10, dew point 5. Altimeter 3003. Arriving runways 28 right, 28 left, departing runways 28 right, 28 left. Advise on initial contact you have Alpha.
Alright, there we go, perfect. We're going to listen to that one more time to check out the altimeter correct. We're going to need bearing 283.
Portland INTL Information Alpha. 2100 Zulu weather. Wind light and variable, visibility more than 10, rain. Sky conditions 2300 scattered, 4300 broken, 6300 broken, temperature 10, dew point 5. Altimeter 3003. Arriving runways 28 right, 28 left, departing runways 28 right, 28 left. Advise on initial contact you have Alpha.
Perfect. Alright. So yes, we are continuing our descent into Portland due to weather for a divert, unfortunately. But everything's looking great. We're about 30 miles from our waypoint and 40 miles from the ILS. So we're just going to continue on with this and try and maintain our speed. We're now below 10,000 feet with 8 minutes to go. Gonna go update our bugs once more to make sure everything's good. It is definitely going to be a ILS approach today, no doubt about that. Miles to go. Now see the discrepancy here between 28 miles and 37 miles is it's 28 miles to our first point, which would be Hipster, but I'm picking up the ILS for the runway, so it shows it a lot further than it would the actual distance. So there's nothing to worry about there. That's all part of the plan. So you continue our descent. And actually, I feel pretty comfortable enough to, we're going to go ahead and just start getting ready to do the intercept. So we're going to set 283, and we're just going to fly this really quick. So we're going to go 283. There's 283. We're just going to fly this for now as we continue to get lower. Because at Hipster would be about 3,700, but I'm going to continue my descent down to 2,000 feet. Once again, just make sure landing lights are good, all of our exterior lights are good, fuel looks great, of course, because we unfortunately couldn't go the full distance. Just going to verify you have 283 for 2,000 feet. aircraft. Alright, one moment. Gonna verify 283. Got 283 set. Continuing
2500.
Continuing our descent. There we go. Now we're doing good. We're 11 miles out from, right now, 11 miles out from Hipster. Okay, we're approaching our altitude. Speed's looking great. Gonna adjust the speed brake a little bit more.
1000.
Too low. Terrain.
Looking great right now.
Too
500.
low. Gear.
There
Too
we go.
low. Terrain.
Gonna set 3,700 so we can get right on course with Hipster. There we go, adding a little power in. There we go. The plane's gonna start getting ready to take course. Alright, 12 miles to go. letting the plane get itself on course. We're going to go ahead and drop the gear. There we go, runway's in sight. First degree of flaps coming down. Okay, the rest of the lights are coming on. Adding more speed. Next notch of flaps coming down. Alright, I'm gonna go and take over. Alright, I have control. Ooh, that weather is rough today. Ooh, yeah, she's rough. Alright, actually, we're gonna let the... There we go. Yeah, that is pretty rough. We're gonna let the autopilot handle that till we get closer. We're still 6 miles out and it's pretty rough. Alright, next notch of flaps. Okay, I'm going to take over because she's not adjusting correctly. Adding more power. Coming down. Come on, keep coming down. You're high. Pulling back power. Still high, coming down. That weather is forcing up really hard. Still coming down, trying to get back on center line. There we go. Perfect. Start coming back up. A little bit off to the side, but that's okay. We're a little low, coming up. Still a little low, coming up. Still off to the side. Still low, coming up.
500.
Coming up. Coming up.
400.
Coming up.
300.
Glide slow. Glide slow. Too low. Glide flaps. Glide slow.
200.
Glide slow. Glide slow.
There we go.
Glide
Coming
slow.
back down. Coming to the side. Not the prettiest approach, but it's working. Coming in.
100.
Sink rate.
50.
Pull up.
30.
okay.
20. 10.
Pull up.
Okay. Not the prettiest approach. But we're down. We're safe. Welcome to Portland. Alright. Taxi lights are going to stay on.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened until the captain turns off the fasten seatbelt sign.
We're going to turn off
At
our
that point, we will
auto
depart the
brakes.
stage and release safety around your seat for any personal belongings. Use caution when opening overhead bins as luggage may have moved around during the flight. If you need assistance when deboarding, please remain seated until everyone else has exited. We would be happy to help you. On behalf of the crew, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us on this flight. We look forward to seeing you in the future. Have a great day.
For some reason, she's not wanting to move right now, so we're going to go ahead and call it here. Once again, not the smoothest landing. But it wasn't anything too terrible. The weather was pretty bad, and I'm not usually used to that, but I'm not going to give too many excuses. I want to thank you all for being on here today and joining us along for this flight and coming to Portland with me. We're going to go ahead and plan our next flight for sometime pretty soon. Not sure where, not sure when, but I'll let you all know. Once again, thank you for coming out.